The Mongols were planning to reach the Atlantic Ocean, and there was no army strong enough to stand in their way. However, this was not to occur. But what if it did? As our viewers have long asked us to create some fun alternative history scenarios on the Kings and Generals channel, we decided to use the new platform that is Wizards and Warriors for that, with a 3-part series which will be focusing on the Mongol invasions of Western Europe that didn't occur in our history. We're going to use historically accurate numbers, defenses, plans, events, and diplomatic ties from our own reality with a single point of divergence. Let's dive in and see if the Mongols will be able to reach the Atlantic Ocean. Since we're staying strictly realistic, we won't have anything too drastic happen in our new timeline. But if you want to move beyond alternate history and into fantasy, specifically of a devilish variety, we've got a shout out for a new D&D rule set, our sponsor Rule of Chaos. They're developing a new rule set for 5th edition D&D that allows you to play as a powerful demon, usually disguised as a regular character. There's a variety of demon types to choose from, with all kinds of traits and abilities, and there's huge scope for customizing your true form's appearance. Take wings, spider legs, tentacles, or you can even be an object like an enticing treasure chest. The key difference is that you're going to be much more powerful than the average D&D character. However, that means you need to hide in the shadows and use deception to complete your missions, because once people realize there's a demon among them, you can still be overwhelmed or hunted by equally powerful mobs and specialists. And whenever you use your demon abilities, you spread chaos, which causes special effects in the area around you that build over time, so you'd better take that into account. Rule of Chaos is launching on Kickstarter and have produced a 120-page adventure book with all the details you'll need to use their rules and some special adventures you can run to try it all out. Go give it a look using our link in the description. In 1242, the Mongols defeated and plundered Poland and Hungary, raided parts of the Holy Roman Empire, and began an organized withdrawal, which resulted in a catastrophe for the entire Balkan region. Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria, and even the Latin Empire of Constantinople were subjected to the horrors of the Horde prior to becoming tributaries, before the Mongols regrouped and went home. But contrary to popular belief, the Mongols did not withdraw due to the death of their Khan. Instead, this was a planned maneuver aimed at resting their warriors who had been campaigning for many years and replenishing the losses from attrition. Dozens of prolonged sieges, smaller raids being repulsed in Austria and Bohemia, as well as mountain ambushes in Croatia and Bulgaria took a toll on the Mongolians, but they had every intention to return. The plan for the second invasion was delayed due to the internal rivalries that arose as a consequence of the Great Khan's behavior. After his favorite son Chochu died in 1237, Ogedei drowned his sorrow in alcohol and withdrew from governing, allowing his court and wife Torigeni to create plots that eroded the unity of the Mongols. But what if Chochu didn't die, and Ogedei remained politically active and healthy for the remainder of his now extended life? The year is 1245, and after a summer of grazing their mounts, the Mongols set their sights on Europe once more, ready to finish what they started. Among the veterans of the previous campaigns under the overall command of Batu, the army is joined by the successful contingent under Baiju Noyan, who defeated the Seljuk Turks and their allies at the Battle of Kosedag in 1243, and secured the tributary status of all of Anatolia except Nicaea. Many Chinese engineers and healers were also brought in, while tributaries like Bulgaria, Serbia, and the Kievan Rus were forced to supply infantry soldiers for the army, as well as tactical information. Alexander Nevsky of Novgorod and Daniel of Galicia personally joined the campaign with 5,000 soldiers each, hoping to appease their overlords and expand their holdings. Overall, the army consisted of 120,000 mixed troops from across the empire, which would be separated into 4 armies, each with a specific goal. The first army, led by Subutai and Alexander Nevsky, was ordered to ride out from Novgorod and attack the states along the Baltic coast, while the second army, commanded by Kadan, Orda, and Daniel of Galicia, would repeat the route of the previous invasion of Poland, with the third main army, commanded by Batu, Burka, and Shiban, penetrating the Carpathian Mountains from multiple entry points to overwhelm Hungary. Finally, the last army under Baiju Noyan planned to make its way across the Balkans, solidifying Mongol control and gathering troops from the newly acquired tributary states. Dozens of messengers were prepared to coordinate the four groups, allowing them to converge on the Holy Roman Empire as one. The countless captives and spies the Mongols had gathered from across Europe informed them that while the West had formidable fortifications and warriors, they were divided. England under Henry III had just invaded France and was defeated at the Battle of Taibor in 1242, but the French king Louis IX gave them lenient terms as he was more focused on the upcoming crusade to retake Jerusalem, which fell in 1244 to a Khwarezmian army which the Mongols displaced. The kingdoms of Portugal, Castile and Aragon had just expanded their power to Lisbon, Seville and Valencia after the most successful phase of the Reconquista, but most importantly, the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II waged war against Pope Innocent IV, who had just excommunicated him for the fourth time, and the empire was split in two. And so on September 5, 1245, a divided Europe was flooded with reports of the returning invaders. Alexander Nevsky, who had guarded Novgorod from their attacks as well as against Sweden, now pressed his advantage, easily annexing Estonia, whose Danish overlord was in the middle of a war with Holstein. The first Grand Duke of Lithuania, Mindaugas, knew he didn't stand a chance, and instantly submitted to the Mongols, even joining their ranks to fight the Holy Order. The Teutonic Knights were sent by the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II to Prussia in 1230 in order to convert the local pagans, who were divided in many tribes and protected their culture. While they lacked unity, they were ferocious in battle and managed to capture and kill many knights, so when the Mongols arrived in the midst of their uprising, many turned to the religiously tolerant invaders. The fortresses in the region were strong, and Subutai preferred to enlist the help of the Prussians, who assisted Chinese engineers in exploiting the weaknesses of the fortifications. By now, the Mongols were adept in siege warfare, but the smaller, well-defended castles and citadels were capable of slowing down the campaign. Meanwhile, the more familiar Poland fell even quicker than last time. After the Mongols killed Henry II in Legnica in 1241, the remaining dukes waged war on each other as they scrambled for the throne. Using the same strategy of divide and conquer, the Mongols quickly took over the lands, crushing the half-rebuilt castles in their wake, and prevented any sizable force being assembled against them. Lublin, Poznan, Gniezno and Krakow were razed to the ground in quick succession, and in May 1246, Duke Bolesław II the Horned, who ruled the western part of Poland, decided to join the Mongols in an attempt to avoid the devastation they brought and gain power over the other fallen duchies. Kadan was well aware that he needed allies to maintain control over the newly conquered lands and accepted this submission. Bela IV of Hungary was the only man in Europe anticipating these events and did everything in his power to prepare for them. He settled Cumans and Germans in the devastated regions, started the construction of dozens of stone castles, and began training elite heavy cavalry. However, the Mongol attack came earlier than he expected, and their multi-prong attack through the Carpathian Mountains surprised him. The massive infrastructural projects were mostly half done, as the reeling nation, still suffering from the famine caused by the previous invasion, was overwhelmed by Batu. Smaller skirmishes occurred across the Great Hungarian Plain, especially between the Mongols and their Cuman cousins, but none of these engagements were able to make a dent in the Mongol war machine. In March 1246, the Hungarian king fled to the Dalmatian Islands as he did before, while both his old capital of Esztergom and the new one, Buda, were destroyed. Batu already knew that the islands were the refuge Bela would seek, and was prepared for it better than last time. The Fourth Army under Baiju, coming in through the Balkans, chased Bela after solidifying the allegiance of Bulgaria, Serbia and Bosnia. The fleeing king was intercepted near Zagreb, and despite the desperate last stand of his royal guard, was captured, allowing the Mongols to use him. While the King of Hungary was in captivity, they began spreading letters with his royal seal, urging the people of Hungary and beyond to surrender to the Great Khan. I urge you now to end your resistance against the Tatar hosts and do not impede their progress. Do not deny their demands or requests for food and supply. When they command the destruction of our walls, we must do so, for now their horsemen are our wall, stronger than any stone and mortar. Accept their rule without struggle, and fighting in the Hungarian kingdom will quickly end. This is my command as King of Hungary and Croatia, Bela, sent on the 7th of April, 1246. By the summer, the entirety of Eastern Europe was under the hooves of Mongol horses, with only a few stone fortresses in Prussia still resisting the constant barrage of the Chinese torsion mangonels. The forces of Batu and Baiju merged and marched for Vienna on August 9th, not just for conquest, but vengeance. The Duke of Austria, Frederick the Quarrelsome, was one of the few who managed to defy the Mongols at both Mohi and his homeland. But that was against small raiding parties. As he now faced the full might of the Mongol army, he was forced to make a choice: withdraw towards the Loibel Pass, alongside the Dukes of Carinthia and Carniola, as his emperor requested, or merge his force with the only ruler capable of meeting the Mongols in open combat, King of Bohemia Wenceslaus I, who commanded 2,000 knights, 4,000 crossbowmen and 15,000 infantry. Frederick was never one to back out of a fight, so he evacuated his citizens and marched towards Prague with a 5,000-strong army on the 16th of August, while a token garrison was left to guard Vienna and other notable strongholds. The Mongols employed their usual tactic of overwhelming their foes by attacking Bohemia from multiple sides on September 14th, with Khadan and his Polish contingent attacking from the north, while Orda and Daniel's Ruthenian army attacked from the east. The latter was delayed for over a month, as constant harassment from the Bohemian raiders slowed their movement in the densely forested passage. Palisades were built with large ditches dug behind them, and night raids were frequent. The Ruthenians were ahead of the main line, as they were seen as far less valuable than the Mongol elite soldiers, which made them disgruntled and slowed the progress even further. One night, while they made camp, Daniel confronted Orda. "When you changed my wine for fermented milk, you said I was one of you now, yet why are my men the ones getting killed?" The King of Ruthenia was slapped across the face for even raising his voice to Orda. In September, Orda and his army were in a desperate need of supplies, so when they made the crossing, they ravaged the countryside. However, after several raiding parties went missing, he was forced to pick some of his best men to scout the region and locate the enemy host. It didn't take long before the riders caught a lesser noble, who informed the Mongols that the Bohemian king was preparing his forces to attack Khadan in the north. Orda immediately began constructing pontoon bridges over the Morava River, leaving Daniel of Ruthenia to guard them, while the more mobile Mongols united with the second force. Word was sent to Batu of their movements, but it was too late, as Orda walked right into the Bohemian trap. On the 21st of September, Wenceslaus had actually camped near Brno with his 21,000 men. Once the Mongols encountered the army, they began harassing it before feigning a retreat. The Bohemian heavy-mounted knights took the bait and charged against the faster light cavalry, which occasionally stopped to take a shot at the pursuers. Some knights turned back, but others charged in before the Mongols surrounded them. The exhausted and wounded horses could not keep up, and one by one they fell to the ground or began to flee, only to be picked off by heavy lancers. By the time the bodies were ransacked, the main Bohemian force arrived, and the Mongols realized that the battle was far from over. A smaller 5,000-strong force, led by Frederick the Quarrelsome, had crossed over through Olomouc and was reported moving against the Mongols from the north, and this time Orda called for an immediate withdrawal through the pontoon bridges on the Morava River. However, this was when the Ruthenians, who were tired of being mistreated by the Mongols and knew this was their only hope of being free again, betrayed Orda. When a small portion of his army made it across, the Ruthenians slaughtered them and set fire to the bridges. The Mongols were stuck, surrounded with nowhere to retreat to. Order knew his only chance was to fight his way out, so he ordered his heavy lancers to charge at the Austrian Duke, while the horse archers performed the caracole maneuver, sending whistling arrows flying at the crossbowmen to cover the main charge. The shrieking sounds terrified the Bohemian horses, who froze up while the crossbowmen returned fire. Frederick rode ahead, personally leading the vanguard, inspiring his men, who met the Mongols in the open plains. Meanwhile, the Ruthenians, situated at the other side of the river, sent arrows at the Mongols. Despite their best attempts, the charge could not break through the enemy ranks, and they were pushed back by the Austrian knights. However, that victory came at a heavy price, as the last member of the Babenberg dynasty, Duke Frederick, suffered a mortal injury. His men dragged him back while continuing the fight, allowing the Bohemian infantry to close in and engage thousands of dismounted warriors. The Mongol horse archers were ordered to circle around the main force, which proved incredibly effective, as they were able to fire at the side and back of the advancing Bohemians. But then the heavy mounted knights joined the fray, smashing into the Mongol flank. The nomads managed to keep their formation despite being surrounded, thus prolonging the battle that lasted well into the evening. At this point, a group of knights located Order and engaged his bodyguards. Many of them perished, but by the end of the fight, one of them managed to land a killing blow to Georgi's firstborn and Chinggis Khan's first grandchild. Most of the Mongol army perished, with only a few dozen exhausted, betrayed and wounded riders managing to scatter across the countryside. Bohemia managed to inflict the greatest defeat on a Mongol army yet. Few Mongols survived, but those who did told the story of the Ruthenian betrayal and Order's defeat, which infuriated the Mongol leaders. While the defeat at Olomouc was a crushing blow to the Mongols, they still had tens of thousands of men on the field, who now had even more cause to conquer the rest of the continent. Khadan wasted no time mourning the death of his cousin and unleashed his fury on Bohemia. In October 1246, after devastating the countryside, the citadel of Kaslor was assaulted with human projectiles until the defenders surrendered, but before he could attack an army or Prague itself, he received a letter from Subutai, who ordered him to pull back and regroup. As for Batu, after he learned that his older brother died at the hands of the Duke of Austria, he subjected Vienna to unspeakable horrors, and the city fell to a combination of psychological warfare, mangonels and sappers on October 1st, 1246. As Vienna fell, another letter was circulating the royal courts of Western Europe. Innocent, bishop, servant of the servants of God. Though we are engaged in difficult matters and distracted by manifold anxieties, yet among those things which demand our constant attention is the Tatar advance. Indeed, the wicked race of the Tatars, seeking to subdue or rather utterly destroy the Christian people, having gathered for a long time past the strength of all their tribes, have entered Christendom. So savage has been their devastation that their sword spared neither sex nor age, but raged with fearful brutality upon all alike. It caused unparalleled havoc and destruction in these countries in its unbroken advance. I am pierced with the deepest sorrow for our brothers and sisters, but there is still hope. By the grace of our Lord, one of the infidel armies was vanquished by the joint forces of King Wenceslaus and Duke Frederick of Austria, who gave his life to protect our realm. Therefore the Church beg, urge and earnestly command all of you, as far as you can, to take up the cross and arms, follow their example, and defend the Christian faith and lands. We lay it down that at an opportune time, to be made known to all the faithful by preachers and our special envoys, all who are ready to take the cross should gather at suitable places for this purpose, so that they may proceed from there with the blessing of God and the Apostolic See to the assistance of our brethren in the East. The Bohemian victory was the rallying cry which echoed through the lands as thousands of crusaders readied their arms to join in this new expedition and drive the Mongols back before it was too late. How far could the Mongols go against a unified Europe, who now knew that they were not invincible? Would this campaign spell disaster and undo even the first invasion? Or would the Mongols find a way to go further than the Huns and raze Rome to the ground? The next episode of this alternative history series is on the way, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button. Please consider liking and sharing. This goes a long way to help us in the eyes of the almighty algorithm. We'll try to read and respond to every comment, as we want to see what you think about this video and which videos you hope to see in the future. Your feedback is very important to us. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.